upon a Titan.
That might not be her favorite subject.
Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host with another marvelous video. The God of War series developed a reputation for horrifying and over-the-top monster design that gave these traditional creatures the next-gen console treatment they deserved, drawing influence from some of the finest sources of mythology and historical memory. The adversaries in the franchise have a distinctive look that subtly references history and have a really terrifying design and battle style. While every creature in the series is horrifying in some manner, some go beyond visual scariness and offer terrifying difficulties that give players the impression that they're battling with eternal gods and demons. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the video to learn more about the creatures encountered in the game. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Fen? Are you? Good boy. Yeah.
Fenrir. Fenrir, also known as Hrafnir, is a wolf and one of the Aesir's most formidable foes. He'll battle and ultimately slay Odin during Ragnarok. He's the biological father of Skál and Hati. He is Jormungandr's brother as well. Fenrir is one of 3 offspring born to Loki and Jotun Angrboda in Norse mythology. His 2 siblings are Hel and Jormungandr. All of them were born in Jotunheim. Despite not being seen by Kratos and Atreus during their voyage, Fenrir's existence is established by the numerous references to him in triptychs and speeches. In particular, Mimir makes a reference of him in one of his stories and describes him as a formidable foe of the Aesir gods, albeit he calls the wolf by his other name, Hrafnir. One of the most powerful beings in all of the realms, Fenrir is a giant and one of the harbingers of Ragnarok. He's strong enough to slay Odin and appears unbeatable even against the undead. He is strong enough to slay Odin and appears unbeatable even against the united might of all the fallen warriors in Valhalla. Because of his tremendous strength, he was dreaded by the Aesir.
Atreus!
We're gonna fight that?
We have no choice.
Trolls. Trolls are massive creatures with a pair of enormous tusks on the corner of their faces. The trolls' preferred weapon is a large, hefty stone totem inlaid with a rune that bestows upon them a particular elemental strength. Trolls have been incorporated into Nordic literature, art and music in a variety of ways since the Romantic era, frequently taking the guise of indigenous people with exaggerated ears and noses. They're frequently shown with tails and ears that resemble lynx ears in terms of hairiness. The vicious monsters in the game attack anybody they come in contact with, including men and dwarves who are unlucky enough to run across them, in addition to Kratos and Atreus. On their travels, the father and son frequently stumble across the bodies of both trolls and their victims. All trolls are incredibly strong and resilient. They can withstand many blows from Kratos and Atreus. The strength and power bestowed by the particular element from the rune on their totems enable them to strengthen and enhance their abilities. For example, fire trolls can shoot flames using their hands and stomp the terrain to disintegrate the earth. And frost trolls can freeze their surroundings and stomp the ground to send shockwaves made of ice shards. Medusa. One of the numerous enemies Kratos faced was Medusa, the first of the Gorgon sisters in Greek mythology. The 3 Gorgon sisters, Medusa, Euryale, and Stheno, were the offspring of the ancient maritime deities Phorcys and his sister Ceto, who are both chthonic monsters descended from Pontus and Gaia. She was crowned queen of the Gorgons during the siege of Athens. She and her species are among Ares' army, since Gorgons were known to despise Athena. As Kratos moved through the city's ruins, he came upon Aphrodite, who gave him the order to kill Medusa by beheading her. From the shadows, the hissing Gorgon emerged and engaged Kratos in combat. Kratos ultimately severed her head from her body using just his hands. Medusa has the ability to turn Kratos to stone, just like the lesser Gorgons. Although it is hinted differently, Medusa has the same power as a typical Gorgon. But because she is stronger than other Gorgons, it'll take more strikes from the Blades of Chaos to finish her. As she demonstrates when she faces Kratos, Medusa can also teleport by dissipating in a cloud of blood-red smoke. Additionally, Medusa has a tail attack capability.
She says there's 6 stairs to close and, not to expect thanks.
Hreysvelgr. A Jotun named Hreysvelgr watches over the realm of the dead and its inhabitants from atop the largest structure in the city of Helheim. In Norse mythology, a giant named Hreysvelgr appears as an eagle. Vafpruanismul, a poem from the poetic Edda, says that he sits at the edge of the universe and, when he beats his wings in flight, causes the wind to blow. In the Gylfaginning part of his prose Edda, Snorri reiterates this. The first time we see Hreysvelgr is when Kratos visits Helheim in search of the bridge keeper's heart to heal his son. Hreysvelgr seems to be a neutral being because he shows no reaction to the things he sees. He is a powerful entity who can transform into an eagle and cause winds to blow. Sigrun. According to Norse mythology, Sigrun is a Valkyrie. The poetic Eddas Helgakvir Hundingsbana 1 and Helgakvir Hundingsbana 2 both tell her narrative. Prior to taking the throne as Valkyrie Queen, Sigrun worked as an advisor to Freyja, whom she admired like her other sisters. However, the Allfather took away Freyja's wings and exiled her to Midgard following her terribly unhappy marriage with him. Sigrun was therefore given the title of Valkyrie Queen, but without Freyja, they lacked independence because Odin viewed them as nothing more than his minions. In the end, Odin forbade Sigrun and her sisters from leaving their physical bodies, since doing so would corrupt them and lead to tremendous damage. Sigrun imprisoned each Valkyrie in order to protect her sisters, but she would succumb to the curse just like her sisters did. The dead therefore started to take over Helheim's kingdom without the Valkyries. Sigrun, the queen of the Valkyries, is incredibly powerful and battle-ready, vastly outclassing all the other Valkyries and may be only rivaled and exceeded by Freyja, the real queen of the Valkyries. She uses her scythe with extraordinary dexterity. It was due to Sigrun's incredible strength that she was able to defeat and imprison the other Valkyries in Odin's secret chambers. Death Eater. The Death Eater is a stone troll that has been lazing around on a little beach next to Tyr's temple, perhaps in a state of slumber. The Death Eater must have slept for an indeterminable period of time because the wandering Giante, the Just, never reported anything notable about him. The stone troll may be seen sleeping on the beach, and both Kratos and Atreus can get there, but they're unable to contact him. The Death Eater doesn't actually emerge from his sleep until the 2 Grendors protecting the Black Rune of Jotunheim deep inside Tyr's vault are vanquished. Until the 2 gods confront him in battle, the stone troll will prowl the seashore. Despite the Death Eater's power, the stone troll is vanquished by the ancient and young gods who both outperform it. The Death Eater, a stone troll, is stronger and more resilient than a typical flesh troll. Like the Grendors, he can produce blinding ash from his hands and swing his totem violently. Still, the number of blinding grenades he can unleash by smashing his totem to the ground is significantly larger.
Your need for vengeance, but this time, retribution finally comes to me, Spartan. Kratos, now dead will...
Kronos. It was predicted that Kronos, the last of Gaia and Uranos' children and the powerful king of the Titans, would one day be deposed by his offspring. Kronos attempted to bribe the Sisters of Fate into changing his fate by giving them the Steeds of Time, but it failed to stop this from happening. His wife Rhea gave birth to his children in a second attempt to prevent this from happening, and he swallowed each one whole to confine them inside his belly. After losing 5 of her children, Rhea could not endure another loss. Rhea summoned an eagle to carry the 6th child away from Kronos when it was born. Rhea presented a stone to Kronos in the infant's place, and Kronos devoured it whole. Gaia, who also disapproved of her son's brutal treatment of his children, reared the 6th child. The 6th child, now known as Zeus, released his siblings from Kronos when he reached adulthood. Kronos is, without a doubt, the biggest giant in the God of War series, at 1,600 feet tall. He's the largest and most powerful of the Titans, serving as their king. Even Atlas could not have equaled his physical might entirely. Additionally, he was the only Titan with the guts to oppose his father, Uranos, dismember him, and take over as the new world leader. Nightmare. In Germanic legend, a mare is a malevolent creature who rides on people's chests as they sleep and cause nightmares. There are many different types of nightmares, which are noxious pests with flying abilities and magical missiles. They don't seem to pose much of a threat to travelers, but they are annoying creatures that fire projectiles and can be accompanied by draugrs, revenants, dark elves, or walkers, who can order them to attack Kratos and make them more influential in battle. Some can even contain draugr and other adversaries to make them stronger and regenerate their health.
Boy? Well done, boy.
Jormungandr, commonly known as the world snake in Norse mythology, is a sea serpent and the middle child of Loki and the giantess Angrboda. Freyr claimed that the serpent magically emerged in the Lake of Nine one day. He once engaged Thor in a conflict that was felt across the 9 realms, resulting in a draw. Since then, he's persisted in the lake and expanded to such a size that he can now completely encircle Midgard. Jormungandr and the Guardian were the final giants in Midgard after the Jotnar fled to their homeland after being pursued by Thor and the other Aesir. While guarding Tyr's temple, he sleeps to pass the time. One of the most powerful creatures in all the realms, Jormungandr has the strength to compete with Thor, the greatest of the Aesir in terms of might. He's the biggest of them all and one of the strongest giants of all time.
Let him go!
Ogres. Ogres are a type of robust, strong giants that resemble gorillas. There's a variety, all of which are pretty potent and often pose a severe threat in combat. Ogres are creatures that appear in mythology to be inhumanly enormous and tall, with a disproportionately large head, a lot of hair, skin that's an odd color, a ravenous hunger, and a powerful physique. Regular ogres have skin that is generally grayish. Large arms used in battle by this ogre species offer their strikes an excellent range. Fierce ogres have blood-red markings and reptile skin all over their bodies, making them similar to typical ogres but more aggressive and unstable. Kratos can mount it if they're stunned and use it to strike nearby foes. If the beast sustains enough damage, Kratos can drag it to the ground and sever its head in half at the jawline to kill it. They are one of the most fearsome foes Kratos and Atreus face on their adventure. They can carry out a variety of destructive strikes. Ogres may launch many shockwave strikes at once by shattering the ground while swinging their enormous arms or charging toward their adversaries. Fierce ogres can leap tremendous distances, allowing them to attack an adversary from above. A nearby ogre may grab smaller foes and hurl them at Kratos.
We're almost at the summit. Nothing's gonna stop us.
Calm yourself, boy, and stay behind me.
Yes, sir!
Hreyseleir, a male dragon named Hreyseleir, resides on Midgard's highest peak, the heart of the mountain, which was formerly Jotnar's home. In order to get to the mountain's peak, Kratos and his son Atreus had to journey through the interior of the mountain, where Hreyseleir ambushed them. The dragon fought briefly before making his way outside. He discovered the dwarf Sindri there and assaulted the blacksmith, but Atreus stopped him and Kratos started fighting the dragon. Kratos restrained the dragon and forced his neck onto a big spike of crystallized world tree sap, which erupted, shattering a significant chunk of the dragon's neck and killing the creature. Their fight went on until Hreyseleir noticed Atreus and Sindri and tried to murder them. Hreyseleir has the power to fire lightning out of his mouth toward the sky, causing it to shower down lightning all around him. Dwarves may be seen by dragons when they move between realms. Therefore, Hreyseleir was able to see Sindri despite his efforts to evade him.
Poseidon, save me.
Hydra, a giant sea snake with several heads around the size of a small island, is known as the Hydra. The Hydra King is the main dominating head that commands the surrounding lesser snakeheads. If it dies, the whole creature perishes. As the game's main story begins, Kratos has been tasked by Poseidon, the sea deity, to slay the beast since it has been imperiling his rule by destroying ships and taking the lives of sailors. When Kratos' fleet approaches Athens, it can be seen attacking it. On the deck of a different ship, Kratos fights the Hydra King, the main head and 2 of its smaller heads in his final confrontation with the creature. The beast is ultimately put to death by the ship's mast being driven through its primary head. The Hydra was a multi-headed snake from Greek mythology that resided in a marsh outside Lerna. Hercules' second labor saw him slay the Hydra. Aegeon. One of the three giants, Aegeon the Hecatoncres, had power and savagery unmatched by any of the Titans they assisted in overthrowing. Along with his two brothers, Cottus and Gyges, he was born to Uranus and Gaia. Aegeon made a blood oath to Zeus after the Great War with the Titans, only to betray him later. The Furies were enraged by this treachery and tracked him down to torture him endlessly, since they believed that death would be too kind for such a transgression. His body was transformed into a jail for those who emulated him, making him an example to everybody. Kratos attempts to sever his blood oath from the god of war, Ares, 6 months after being duped into killing his wife and kid. The Furies sentence Kratos to a life of insanity and bind him inside Aegeon's jaws until he rejoins the god of war's army. In an effort to halt Kratos, Megara infects the Hecatoncres' arms with her parasites, causing the Hecatoncres to mutate and develop into monsters. The Spartan is able to destroy the diseased arms, though. Siren Seductress. Kratos runs across the Siren Seductresses, who are Olympus's servants. They take the form of dark-skinned ladies with long wispy fingers, scarlet veils that nearly completely enclose their faces, barring their mouths, and red robes fastened with a golden ribbon. The souls of Siren Seductresses may also be called forth by the claws of Hades, and when they do so, they emit a potent, far-reaching screech that damages all adjacent opponents. They are formidable foes that prefer quick attacks over powerful, unavoidable blows. They are also more challenging to attack due to their ability to float. The Seductresses may only screech when levitating, and it's their greatest assault. It briefly blinds Kratos and drains his magic. Additionally, they have the capacity to disappear, rendering them immune to Kratos' blows virtually. Járnfota. Járnfota formerly had a home with the giants in the tallest mountain in Midgard, the heart of the mountain, but they had a falling out and he was exiled. The Frost Troll returned to the mountain after all the giants had vanished, and she has been there ever since. Kratos and Atreus encountered the Frost Troll as they were approaching the mountain's summit after finally arriving at the heart of the mountain. The pair proved to be too much for him and he ultimately perished. In addition to the ice power bestowed by his totem, Járnfota also boasts a great deal of strength and is capable of unleashing powerful freezing shockwaves by smashing his totem. He may launch straight waves of ice shards at his adversary by smashing his enhanced foot or totem tip to the ground, drastically slowing and freezing his adversaries upon impact. Grendel of the Frost. Grendel was a legendary troll, the strongest and most dreaded member of the Stone Troll tribe. To honor and adore him, they gave him the title The Frost, the moniker they held in the greatest regard. He finally shared a guarding role with his fiery counterpart over the Black Rune of Jotunheim in Tyr's vault. Once Kratos and Atreus had successfully located the Black Rune, both Grendel sprang to life and started fighting the invaders. Despite their cooperation, they ultimately lost. Grendel was regarded as the Stone Troll tribe's strongest and most feared member. Owing to his superior power, he was given the nickname The Frost. Each strike he makes can freeze and slow down his opponent. He has the power to swing around his big totem with immense force and has the capacity to blast blinding ash from his fingertips. He can also impale his large totem to the ground, creating surrounding earth grenades that can blind his adversaries. Daudi Hamar. Numerous monster hunts were conducted under the reign of Motsognir, the terrible dwarven king of Vithagard, and the fire troll was one of the targets. Vithagard's hunting group came upon an unfamiliar animal one day. The creature's cry attracted the fire troll's attention, igniting a fight that saw the hunting party's vanguard instantaneously turning to ashes. The conflict persisted until Daudi Hamar was attracted to the Lake of Nine, where he was eventually defeated at the expense of another 30 soldiers. The fire troll was captured and hidden away in the depths of Vithagard, where he was kept in captivity even after the town was abandoned. Kratos and Atreus discovered the troll's prison as they were attempting to free the trapped dragon Otur, who was also imprisoned in Vithagard. The younger god was able to comprehend his predicament and convinced his father to release him. Nevertheless, Daudi Hamar did not express gratitude to them and instead attacked them in battle. He was finally killed by the two gods, although he was happy to die in a fight rather than decay in captivity. The strongest fire troll in Midgard, Dowdy Hammar's body emits enough fire to burn everything in his vicinity instantly. He can ignite the ground with only his footfall, stamp the ground to produce flames, or sink his foot deeper to produce explosions. Matuga Helsen was born and reared in Helheim and later appointed as the bridge keeper, in charge of making sure that no living things cross it. After the battle with Magni and Modi, Atreus becomes unwell and Kratos brings him to Freya for assistance. She claims that Atreus is engaged in conflict with his real nature. She tells Kratos that the bridge keeper's heart is the special component she requires, which can only be obtained in Helheim. Kratos' fiery weapons impaled the Hell Troll's kid after a bloody battle, and his soulless body was left lying at the bridge's entrance after being stripped of its heart. Maturg Helsen is equipped with a greater array of skills because of his role as the bridge keeper, which is made possible by a totem that harnesses the energy of Helheim itself. His ability to teleport makes him the most deadly character, since it enables him to launch powerful assaults that are rapid and almost impossible to evade. He may also repeatedly bash his totem into the ground to produce powerful and swift shockwaves of darkness and wandering energy spheres that explode on collision. The Helsen also appears to have some influence in the realm of the dead because he has some control over Helheim's infrastructure, such as telepathically closing the bridge's gates and calling Hellwalkers to fight with him. Callisto, mother to Kratos and Deimos, Callisto was a Spartan lady, one of Zeus's numerous lovers. As Kratos traveled across Atlantis, he arrived at the Temple of Poseidon, which the inhabitants of that continent built as a monument to their god. Kratos was overcome by a vision of himself and his brother practicing as kids as their mother informed them that their war was over and they returned to their house. This occurred after Kratos had entered the temple. Kratos found his mother, who was sick and feeble, lying on a bed as he awakened from the vision. Callisto informed her son that she had missed him as he approached. Kratos first believed it to be a god's ploy, but she reassured him that it was indeed her. Kratos was astonished to see his mother again, but after attentively inspecting her, he discovered that she was, in fact, his mother. She said that she'd been taken there by his father. Callisto changed into a monstrous beast, which Kratos had to combat just as she was ready to expose Kratos' father's identity. After defeating his mother in combat, Kratos then embraced Callisto as she slowly passed away, thanking him for freeing her and urging him to seek out Deimos in Sparta. Callisto doesn't have any special abilities in her human form, but she does in her monster form. The monstrous version of Callisto is extremely strong and resilient. She also possesses claws and fangs that are razor sharp. The Kraken. The Kraken is a fearsome beast with several tentacles and a voracious hunger, while being primarily portrayed as a large octopus-like creature. She only exhibits 4 tentacles, 2 of which loop around the nearby pillars to support her body, and 2 of which are employed for combat and are covered in a thick, spiky, black exoskeleton. She has a giant fanged mouth, 2 large eyes, and little spines or gills on either side of her head. She also has 2 primary tentacles that are attached to 2 enormous pillars and bleeding lesions on her forehead. After Kratos defeats the last Spartan, it makes an appearance. She attacks Kratos by smashing at him with her enormous tentacles and by spitting slime out of her mouth. Her enormous proportions made her almost powerful enough to squeeze Kratos to death.
Atreus!
Dowdy Kaupmada. After Kratos accompanies Atreus on his first hunting trip, he encounters a troll named Dowdy Kaupmada in the wildwoods. However, Dowdy Kaupmada notices Atreus' successful pursuit of a massive deer and scoops up the dead animal before tossing it away. They fight the fire troll, but Kratos defeats him and breaks his neck, killing him. Due to Atreus' ensuing fury over his abrupt attack, Kratos came to the conclusion that his son was not prepared for their adventure. Dowdy Kaupmada is incredibly strong and resilient, able to swing his massive totem forward and bash the ground with it, each of his hits powerful enough to break neighboring stone structures. Dowdy Kaupmada, a fire troll, imbues his strikes with the burning element, igniting the surroundings with each strike. Stonebeard King. The Stonebeard King is a notably strong frost troll that goes by the title of King, since no one could dethrone him because of how powerful he is and how he has never lost a battle. The Frost Troll materialized in front of Kratos and his son. They engaged in life-or-death combat after using the stonemason's hammer to smash through the ice around the Jotun's body in order to recover a piece of his magic chisel buried far below. The Stonebeard King experienced defeat for the first time at the hands of the alien god and his offspring, despite the Frost Troll's unbeaten record. His power enables him to swing his totem with enough force to shake the ground under him, generating surrounding ice shards that may erupt to freeze everything close. With each strike, he can discharge waves of freezing ice and unleash potent freezing energy. Draugr are undead warriors who died in combat, but anger-blinded, turned down the Valkyries' invitation to Valhalla, frequently out of a desire for vengeance. After engaging the Valkyries in a duel, the warriors are scorched by the ferocity of the conflict and are sentenced to a life of wrath, spent pacing Midgard as a shell of their former selves. They are the most common adversaries, especially since they mainly inhabit Midgard and other worlds except Helheim. Draugr are distinguished in two ways, by class and through augmentation. The Draugr's class, which determines its fundamental attack pattern and toughness, is its basic physical makeup. A Draugr's augmentation, a non-mandatory trait, covers a special power-up in addition to the class's fundamental ability. The main types of Draugr are Common Draugr, Draugr Brute, Dual-Wielding Draugr, Fireball Draugr, and Shield Draugr. Satyr. In mythology, satyrs are beings with a goat's back legs and horns and a man's upper torso. In each version of the God of War games, satyrs have proven to be the most dangerous foes, capable of engaging Kratos head-on and quickly dispatching him if the Spartan is not cautious. The satyrs in this series are also seen to have goat-like skulls in addition to claws. Throughout the game, Kratos comes across different types of satyrs, which include the Common Satyr, Satyr Captain, Satyr Commander, Tusai Satyr, Dark Satyr, Satyr Grenadier, Dark Satyr Grenadier, Hades Satyr, and Satyr Champion. Euryale is an extremely overweight gorgon with glowing yellow eyes and green skin that wrinkles from her enormous belly. The oldest and most maternal of the three sisters, Euryale is also the strongest. Kratos traveled to the island of creation to modify his destiny before arriving at the temple of Euryale. As he made his way into the temple, Kratos heard Euryale screaming in rage. He was aware that he would soon have to confront her. In order to alter the fates of Medusa and Stheno, who were both killed by the hands of the savage warrior dreaded across all of Greece, Euryale planned to offer Kratos to the Sisters of Fate. Kratos finally made it inside the realm where Euryale was waiting. The ghost of Sparta brutally executed her after a fierce struggle. Being one of the two immortal Gorgons, Euryale has some degree of immunity to mortal weapons. When she drags herself up pillars, Euryale demonstrates her prowess. Despite her size, she moves quickly. Like other Gorgons, she can petrify foes but also regulate the intensity, varying it from brief, swift orbs to a broad area-covering glare. She has the ability to petrify smaller Gorgons, unlike Medusa. Juggernaut. Its presence is comparable to that produced by the Minotaur since it's shaped like a terrifying and powerful elephant. It travels on its rear legs and uses the claws on its front paws, which resemble human hands, to assault its prey. It's also covered with Persian armor covering its nose, tusks, waist, and even arms. Juggernauts can stomp on the ground with one of their feet to push Kratos back or slash at him with their claws, which is the only attack that can be deflected. Juggernauts can also charge toward Kratos and push him away with their tusks. Some of them can smash or bang their giant maces, made from spiky elephant tusks, against the ground and Kratos. Hippocampi. The enormous creatures of Poseidon were called hippocampi. Hippocampi were shown with a head resembling a horse, anthropod limbs, and a lengthy tail resembling a serpent that joined them to Poseidon's body. The hippocampi were demonstrated to be strong, hardy animals. In addition to having its lower jaw severed, one of its limbs tips removed, and its chest split open, the one creature Kratos encountered was impaled by a piece of its own severed claw. Despite being attacked, it was nevertheless able to participate in Poseidon's last assault on Gaia, supporting another hippocamp in holding the Titan's head while the Olympian engaged Kratos. Hippocampi use their powerful anthropodal limbs to strike their prey by smashing them against them or swinging them through the air. They can also employ water-based abilities. either by rearing back and slamming the ground with their enormous size to produce a big shockwave of water, or by spitting a highly pressured jet of water from their mouth. Charybdis. The sea monster Charybdis repeatedly strikes Kratos while he explores the island of Delos, dragging the lighthouse of the statue of Apollo, where the Eyes of Truth are situated, into the depths. After defeating Megara, Kratos eventually makes it to Alecto's chamber, where it is revealed that Charybdis is actually Alecto. After being defeated by Kratos, the beast returns to its original form as Alecto. Cyclops. The God of War series features a breed of hulking, one-eyed giants known as Cyclops. They come in a variety of forms, all of which are potent and frequently pose a serious threat in combat. Kratos may only use the finishing move that each Cyclops has by activating and winning a minigame. The concluding maneuver varies according to the species, but Kratos often mounts the animal and rips or stabs out its eye. There are different types of Cyclops in God of War. The first Cyclops Kratos faces is a Cyclops Enforcer. Their body is partially encased in heavy, spiky armor. A large spiky ball linked to a rope concealed within their forearm has taken the place of their right hand, which has been removed. The Cyclops Berserker is one of the most potent. There are two types of Berserkers, one with brown skin that wields a metal club, and the other with green skin that wields a tree trunk as a club. The Cyclops Desert King is a huge spike-covered Cyclops. It has what looks to be a massive bloody spinal bone in its right hand, which it wields as a club. Cyclops Brutes are just regular Cyclops with a huge jawbone for a club. On top of the powerful Titan Kronos, Kratos came across the Cyclops remains, an undead Cyclops. Lastly, armored Cyclops are similar to regular Cyclops, but the former is partially shielded in heavy golden armor. Hoplite. The standard hoplites are an adversary that resembles skeleton corpses with two swords for weapons and is dressed in typical Greek armor. By rushing at him and striking him hard with their two swords, they assault Kratos. They may also be seen scaling walls in an effort to grab Kratos and knock him down. Kratos comes across these adversaries in Asphodel, the Elysium Fields, and Tartarus. Apart from the standard hoplite, there are 4 other types of hoplites. The only difference between a shielded hoplite and a regular hoplite is that the former additionally carries a large bronze shield. Hoplite guards resemble regular hoplites in appearance, with the exception that they are armed with strong metal shields. Kratos must use Thera's Bane to deactivate their shields before he can harm them. The strongest type of hoplites Kratos faces are hoplite sentries. Sentries are distinguished by their blood-red armor and swords comparable to scimitars, which give them a similar appearance to their inferior hoplite comrades. In place of the two swords, the hoplite archer uses a bow. Along with the typical hoplites, they fight Kratos by launching arrows at him from a distance. Harpies. Harpies are horrifying creatures having the bodies of either bats or birds and the heads of malformed women. They typically come out in packs to assault Kratos. As a group, they are readily able to defeat Kratos despite their individual weakness. They bite and slash Kratos with their talons and teeth when they attack. Additionally, they may bite Kratos' face when perched on his shoulders. Additionally, under Ares' direction, the Harpies were the ones that gave Kratos the Blades of Chaos. Kratos encounters a variety of Harpies throughout his journey. In contrast to their inferior Harpy counterparts, Harpy queens are genuinely useful to Kratos. Kratos may use his blades to grip a Harpy queen, and then take control of it once he's within striking distance. Kratos must sometimes grapple Harpy queens in order to span wide spaces. Apart from the regular Harpy and the Harpy queen, Kratos also comes across fire Harpies, Hades Harpies who reside in the underworld, cursed Harpies, and Harpy widows. Miniature or baby Harpies are often encountered alongside Harpies and are known as Harplings. These Harplings are further categorized as standard Harplings, fire Harplings, and cursed Harplings. Wraiths. Wraiths are spectral creatures that resemble gaunt, eyeless people with rotting flesh and bladed arms. Their waists end in clouds of black smoke from which they float, rather than legs. They attack any living creature that approaches them and are completely possessed by the fury that causes their death. Until they erupt from beneath Kratos' feet to assault him, they're impervious to damage while they crawl beneath the soil. There are 6 types of wraiths that Kratos encounters throughout his journey. Kratos usually runs into the Athens wraiths, which are a prevalent variety. Their heads and shoulders are covered in bits of golden armor, and their skin is black and decaying. The fiercest wraiths in the God of War series are called Wraiths of Hades because, unlike other wraiths, they can summon their own spirits to fight Kratos. You only come across desert wraiths in Pandora's temple. Except for a modest increase in strength, they're nearly identical to the Wraith of Athens. The deadly Thanatos henchmen are known as Kyries wraiths. They have the ability to assault Kratos from deep underneath. The most potent wraiths living on the island of creation are wraiths of Asphodel. Additionally, they possess the unusual ability to assault Kratos by hurling their blade-like arms his way. In Olympus and the underworld, the wraiths of Olympus can be found, most likely acting as the god's servants. Instead of straight blade arms, they have human-like hands that bear curved blade boomerangs. Scylla. When Poseidon summons Scylla, she uses her arms and tentacles to kill everything in her path. She also releases Scylla Brood, a group of young creatures who follow in Scylla's footsteps. When the beast finally managed to wreck Kratos' ship despite his best efforts to repel her tentacles, the combat was forced to resume on the Atlantean shore. Kratos was able to momentarily pacify Scylla by removing one of her 6 eyes and badly harming her lower jaw when she eventually made her full appearance there and started attacking him. Eventually, Kratos killed it, drilling its head with an Archimedes screw. Fallen Legionnaire. Fallen Legionnaires are armed with lethal spiked swords and are clad in heavy armor. They initially appear in the Challenge of Atlas and quickly establish themselves as one of the most common foes in Pandora's temple, mastering fighting techniques that are comparable to those of the Cursed Legionnaire but far more potent. Kratos may kill them in the same manner. He kills the other undead Legionnaires after weakening and stunning them. Some groups of Fallen Legionnaires cannot be captured at all and must instead be eliminated using either weapons or magic. These may be discovered in the Challenge of Poseidon's pool area, where they assault Kratos with harpies.
Yes!
Are you certain?
I got it! Trust me!
Good then. Aim for the face.
Watch out, Roland!
Grendel of the Ashes. He was the fire version of Grendel of the Frost, and among the fire trolls, he was given the name the Ashes in recognition of his might. He and his ice counterpart were in charge of watching over the Black Rune of Jotunheim, which was locked up in Tyr's vault and eventually died at the hands of Kratos and his son. He is powerful enough to whirl around his totem at high speeds, pound the soil with his totem to make blinding explosives, and blast ashes that blind his enemies from his fingers, just like his Grendel brother. Efreet. From Arabian mythology, the Efreet was a malevolent fire spirit. Kratos realized that it appeared that the Persian king could call the Efreet. Following the king's loss at Attica, Kratos robbed him of such authority. The fire spirit was released when it was activated, attacking all opponents in the immediate vicinity. Manticore. The Manticore is a flying creature with a lion-like face, a shark's mouth that can open and close, dragon wings, human limbs and a torso, a scorpion tail, and plates that resemble scorpions on its back. A female Manticore dwelt in Delphi, where there were many of the monster's eggs. After weakening the monster, Kratos eventually kills it. In Delos, a second Manticore is seen soaring. The beast's left wing and leg are severed as Kratos leaps on it and uses it to fly from the statue of Apollo to its lantern. He also causes the beast to collide with the jagged edge of the lantern's roof. Small manticores are born from eggs, which may be found throughout the game at various times, but most frequently at Delphi, where they are plentiful. The eggs that the manticores spew immediately hatch.
What are the eggs? How do you kill something made of rock?
You find its weak point.
Ancients. A race of elemental golems known as the Ancients has existed since the dawn of time and is said to be a remnant of the primordial entity Ymir. Most Ancients live in Midgard, with the exception of the one in Alfheim, and are typically concealed in its landscape since it's made up of large masses of rock. Their bodies, which are made completely of rock in their particular element, are only a torso, a head, and limbs joined by a heart. They lack any sensory organs, including a mouth, and are unable to speak. In any case, the fact that they can fight and are aware of their environment suggests that they are sentient beings. The Ancients are strong, indestructible beings composed of rock, with their only weak point being their heart, which appears to be their source of energy. The Ancients fight with energy beams and projectiles made of rock that are either ice or fire charged. Soul Eaters. The dwarf alchemist Anvari tried to tame the ancients and utilize them as beasts of burden. The plan appeared to be successful for a while, but soon these transformed ancients started attacking their dwarven masters and consuming their souls. Due to their lack of a soul of their own, these soul eaters immolated the souls of others, making them a threat to every living thing they came into contact with. At the Volunda mines, Anvari's final residence before his creation turned against him, Kratos and Atreus only came across one of these soul eaters. They regain Anvari's sealed soul by fighting the soul eater. They may encounter the more potent soul devourers later on in their adventure. The primordial golem's powers to withstand all sorts of injury and fire energy beams and projectiles by exposing their hearts are shared by soul eaters. Anyone slain by a soul eater will always be stuck as a part of the soul eater and never experience the afterlife. Darksetter. The quickest mode of conveyance for the Aesir, Darksetter is a male dragon who at some time became the mount of the god. One day, Baldur rode Darksetter to Midgard on the orders of Odin in order to locate the desired Jötun and discover a route to Jötunheim. When Baldur abducted the son of the Jötun he was seeking, he once more mounted Darksetter, with the dragon himself serving as the arena for the conflict between Baldur and the boy's father. Darksetter was killed when his wings were injured during the combat, which caused him to plummet to Earth. His remains were found close to the World Serpent, where Kratos and Atreus can travel to get a dragon's tear. Darksetter had a specially made suit of armor that Asgardian artisans most likely made. It encompassed the majority of his torso and had 2 horns on the helmet. He had wings that gave him the ability to glide through the air. Darksetter was never observed fighting, therefore neither his strength nor the element that might spew out his lips can be ascertained. Revenant. Revenants take the form of staff-wielding feminine humans in shrouds. They have hunchbacks that mimic spike-like ribs and wear animal heads. They possess elemental abilities like fire, poison, or cold. They may teleport away from threats and are seen to be levitating. Witches who have lost all of their humanity and become revenants have exchanged parts of their souls to increase the potency of their seer magic. The game has 3 different sorts of revenants: poison revenants, summoning revenants, and hell revenant. Each type has unique magical skills in addition to shared ones. For example, revenants may cast poison spells with their staffs like lightning bolts from beneath the ground. Kratos will have an extremely tough time killing revenants with his axe because they are incredibly swift and can teleport while emitting a mist of magical poisoning. Banshee. Banshees have the appearance of gorgeous, rotting ladies with brown snake tails in place of their lower bodies. They had long white hair that was braided, parched stomachs, and elaborate golden headdresses. They may swoop at Kratos with their tails, scratch him with their claws, or scream loudly enough to knock him out of commission temporarily. They move incredibly swiftly. The Banshees appear to be a cross between a Gorgon and a Siren, having the fundamental features of a Gorgon and the skills of a Siren. Basilisk. A sail is attached to the back of the enormous lizard-like basilisk, which also has a membrane between its front and rear legs and a spiky tail. It was brought by the Persian army that invaded Attica, frightened the city alongside them, and the Persian king declared it would cleanse the region. Kratos was tasked by the gods to eradicate this wickedness. When it intervenes in a battle between Kratos and a Cyclops outside the city, it marks the first meeting in the game. On the bridge leading out of Attica, the monster ends up engaging in combat with the ghost of Sparta. Kratos kills it by leaping on its head, yanking its jaw together, and setting off an explosion in its mouth. Stheno. One of the 3 Gorgon sisters is Stheno. Only in the bog of the Forgotten does she emerge. Stheno is first imprisoned in stone in the center of the swamp. Still, she can communicate with the soldiers of the 4 gods by directing her terrifying look at anybody foolish enough to be in her presence. To release the beast from its stone prison and petrify any nearby enemy players, a warrior must acquire a golden shield and direct the delivered beam back at the beast. The person who liberated her takes possession of her and acquires the power to summon the magic of the enormous Gorgon to petrify and destroy foes around. Gorgon Stheno is quite strong. Although she's a little different from the others of her type, she has the ability to turn anybody who looks at her into stone. Stheno must charge up her shot, but it instantaneously petrifies and kills whomever she glances at, unlike other Gorgons who must maintain their eyes on the target to petrify them.
Yeah, I always wondered what became of him.
Wait, Fafnir? Like, Fafnir's storeroom Fafnir?
The very one.
But Sindri said he was a dwarf.
Fafnir. Like Brock and Sindri, Fafnir was a dwarf, and Mimir was aware of his propensity to visit other worlds in search of goods that piqued his interest. Fafnir once journeyed into Niflheim in search of a whetstone, which Sindri orders Kratos and Atreus to collect since it must have been some whetstone, according to Sindri. Soon after being imprisoned among the other dragons, Fafnir was found by Kratos and Atreus, who were shocked when Mimir said that this dragon was Fafnir. He must have been discovered and taken by Motsognir to make a fabled dwarf armor in his previous residence. A short while later, a lore marker reveals that he had taken a veneer mirror, which, when stared upon, might transform a person into a dragon. Regin. In Norse mythology, Regin is Sigurd's foster father and the son of Hreomar. Otr and Fafnir are his brothers. When Loki accidentally murders Otr, Hreomar demands payment and the quantity of gold required to fill and cover Otr's body. The dwarf Andvari gives the wealth to Loki, who then curses it, particularly the ring, and Varanort. Fafnir murders his father for this gold, but he later develops into a dragon with a voracious appetite. Regin does not receive any of the riches, but he does become the kingsmith and Sigurd's foster father, teaching him numerous languages in addition to sports, chess, and runes. Regin was imprisoned by the Dwarf King in the God of War series and made to serve as the sentry of Konungsgard.
Eat us. Please don't eat us.
All right, prepare yourself.
Otr. The Dwarf King Motsognir had caught 3 dragons, including Otr. Otr was diminutive. He's the brother of Regin and Fafnir and the son of King Hredimir. According to the prose Edda, he could assume any form and used to spend his days in the guise of an otter, gorging himself on fish. Loki accidentally killed Otr because he wanted to retain his pelt. For Otr's demise, Hreidmir wanted a sizable weregild, namely that Otr's skin be completely covered in red gold before being filled with yellow gold. One whisker was left sticking out after the skin had been covered, requiring Loki to give up a ring and Varinort had been using to cover it.
Is he friendly?
Boy.
Chowli. The enormous tortoise named Chowli resides atop Freya's house as a token of gratitude for saving her when she was imprisoned in the woodlands of Midgard and unable to flee the Aesir. Pusa, the female vampire monster Empusa, has purple spikes for limbs and hands that are like praying mantis, which are extremely sharp, and she moves seductively, almost like a dancer. In addition, she lacks hair and possesses fire. She is a seductress as well as a potent and swift foe. She can go from a 4-legged crawl to a bipedal position as she moves near Kratos. She can twist herself into various unnatural forms by overbending her joints until they shatter. In the event Kratos fails to parry, block, or dodge the assault, Empusa might jump at him and plunge their swords into his chest. The ghost of Sparta may sustain serious harm if they can get a hold of him. Kratos' arms are not constrained, therefore he's free to shake it off. Elemental Talos. 3 different sorts of foes are known as the Elemental Talos, the Fire Talos, the Ice Talos, and the Thunder Talos. They are comparable to the God of War 3 Stone and Bronze Talos. Each of the 3 is carrying a big hammer and is clad in thick armor. They are proven to be extremely powerful opponents for Kratos. However, they suffer damage similar to the Stone and Bronze Talos and are eliminated similarly to the other 2 by being crushed to death by their own enormous hammers. Each of them may perform a potent special move while in the phase, depending on their different components. Each Talos occasionally completely engulfs itself in its element, rendering it impenetrable. Scorpius. Deep among the catacombs below Mount Olympus resides Scorpius, the queen of the scorpions. She attempts to eliminate players with surprise assaults on the enormous cubes by splintering portions of its wood walls and spitting at them, which sends anybody meters away, or by scaling the cube's top and making a single strike with one of her pincers, which may severely harm any warrior nearby. She launches one of these attacks, climbs the cube, and then vanishes once more. Scorpius's exoskeleton contains onyx crystals that can only be shattered by the blade of Olympus or the Nemean cestus. Scorpius also produces Scorpius spawns, which are essentially its offspring. They resemble little pale Scorpius without the onyx armor covering their limbs and back. These enemies first come into contact with Kratos in the depths of the labyrinth beneath Mount Olympus, where they will relentlessly and en masse assault him. Sphinx. A well-known figure from both Greek and Egyptian mythology is the Sphinx. Greek mythology describes the Sphinx as a creature with a lion's body, occasionally with wings, and a human female's head, where it is claimed to be one of Echidna's offspring. In Egyptian mythology, the Sphinx is shown as a human-headed lion wearing a pharaoh's crown. In the Temple of Persephone, Kratos comes upon a Sphinx. It shares a similar appearance to its rival, the Morpheus beast, to the exception that it is stronger, has brown fur, and is not shrouded in fog. The Sphinx uses a similar combat strategy, although it breathes fire instead. Griffin. A griffin was a half-eagle, half-lion hybrid monster from Greek mythology that is thought to have roamed the eastern kingdoms, including Persia. When Kratos takes the Pegasus to the island of creation, griffins arrive as his foes. They are swift animals with sword-like tails and talons for defense. Griffins can fly and attack from great heights and are frequently seen with armed passengers like Fate's sentries. Dark Griffin. The Dark Griffin, which was far larger and more powerful than the other griffins, served as the Dark Rider's ride. He has a large beak and is a gigantic dark blue griffin. Together with his master, he assaulted Kratos, ultimately killing Pegasus. After killing the rider, Kratos uses the Spear of Destiny to impale the Dark Griffin in the brain and then cuts off one of its wings. The Dark Griffin is launched into the air and lands on the island of creation, where it promptly perishes. Python. In the worship center of his parents Gaia and Uranus, Python, the earth dragon of Delphi, was produced as the first dragon and is the progenitor of all dragons. Kratos makes his way to the Delphi highlands in pursuit of the oracle. He discovers the enormous mechanical Python's hollowed-out corpse, which has been transformed into 3 mechanized modes of conveyance for the Tower of Delphi. On these, which Kratos uses to ascend and circle the mountain, he comes across manticores. Kratos acquires the lightning of Zeus' power within the belly of the Python. Harpy Boss. The Harpy Boss is an adversary from God of War who was never included in the final game. The overall concept was that Kratos would come upon the mother bird, as the monster was known, while it was dozing off, and that he'd have to steal its eggs and burn them in a fire to enrage it. So that he could access the Pandora's box that she was protecting, Kratos would then have to murder her. Cerberus. The Cerberi are the dogs of Hades, yet as shown on the island of creation, some of them dwell independently. Cerberi comes in various forms, apart from the normal Cerberi that resemble Cerberus breeders in appearance, except they don't reproduce and can leap very far. As the protector of Pandora's temple, Kratos meets various Cerberi along with their young along his journey. These Cerberi are the Cerberus breeders and their Cerberus seeds, which, if left unattended for too long, would quickly develop into other breeders. Wild Cerberus, also known as Horned Cerberus, possess flame-breathing abilities, 3 heads, and white hair, are discovered close to the Garden of Lacheris. The head in the center bears the biggest horns. In the Bog of the Forgotten, an unusual monster is known as Mole Cerberus. The Argonauts had been completely destroyed, and Jason, who was wearing the golden fleece, had also been murdered and devoured by this monstrous beast. After killing the beast, Kratos obtained the golden fleece. In addition, Kratos comes across the bigger and more powerful Hades Cerberus, which has skin that looks like magma, as well as the lesser breeds known as the Cerberus mongrel, which he can control when weakened. All across Olympus, smaller, one-headed hellhounds can be found. Kratos will also run against a formidable Cerberus known as the Hades Cerberus breeder, close to the game's conclusion. Aegeon's Hand. The parasites Megera used to infect the Hecatoncheires enter one of its arms, causing its fingers to start growing and changing. A monster with enormous teeth then emerges from the palm, and the remaining fingers change into claws. By slicing this monster's throat with his own claw, Kratos ends its life. It splits in 2 to reveal a monster similar to the first during a second encounter with another arm. Kratos is thrown through multiple jail cells before the fight resumes. By allowing one of the prison sections to fall on him twice throughout the fight, Kratos weakens the monster. In the end, Kratos kills him by impaling him on a massive metal spike. Megera transforms the Hecatoncheires' head into a beast and attacks Kratos after moving on. After a brief battle, Kratos finds himself sandwiched between the beast and one of its mutant arms. The Spartan uses this taming to battle the Hecatoncheires' head shortly after weakening the arm, eventually killing both of them, as well as Megera. Nymph. Beautiful young women who were both the daughters of gods and the keepers of the wild were known as nymphs in Greek mythology. They're a little bothersome adversary that doesn't appear much in God of War. It resembles a big, four-winged flying insect with a blue appearance. It can fire a web that temporarily confines Kratos, leaving him vulnerable to assaults, or spit a flash of green energy at him. By seizing and tossing them to the ground, Kratos may murder them by crushing their heads with his foot. Hades nymphs, a different kind of nymph, are enormous reddish-orange insects. They occasionally come towards Kratos in swarms and attack by spitting little fireballs at him. Some Hades nymphs emerge from nests, which must be destroyed if you don't want the creatures to keep reappearing indefinitely. Beyond the Ice Phoenix Room and within Atlas, these nests may be found.
No! No! Stay away from me!
Minotaur. The Minotaur appears as an 8-foot-tall species of anthropomorphic bull. They fight Kratos when they come across him. Minotaurs carry a variety of enormous battle axes as they move on their rear legs. The Minotaurs that Kratos battles throughout the game get bigger, stronger, and more heavily armored and well-armed as the game progresses. In terms of look and combat technique, the armored Minotaur is similar to the regular Minotaur. The main distinction is that before Kratos can indeed injure the beast, he must break and remove its heavy armor. The Minotaur grunt, a common kind of Minotaur found in the God of War series, is frequently encountered in pairs and must be treated carefully. This Minotaur holds a huge battle axe despite not being as fearsome as the other kind shown in the series. The Minotaur hammer grunts are a step higher than the Minotaur grunts, yet they're still among the lesser Minotaurs found in God of War and still worthy foes. Later in his pursuit of Athens, Kratos first sees him. They resemble Minotaur grunts in appearance, but instead of axes, they also carry enormous war hammers, which are blue in color. Kratos comes across a stronger variety of Minotaur in Pandora's temple. This creature is known as the Minotaur warrior. They have brownish skin, are bigger than Minotaur hammer grunts, and are armed with battle axes and a huge war hammer. Only a small portion of Pandora's temple has the Minotaur tormentors, which are largely located in the Challenge of Hades and on the Cliffs of Madness. They have 3 horns encased in heavy spiked armor, and their weapon is a huge spiked battle axe. First discovered in the lair of Typhon, Erebus Minotaurs are a novel kind of the Minotaur. They resemble the Minotaur grunt in some ways, except that their hooves, hips, forearms, backs, and horns are encased with ice. This ferocious Minotaur fights best in couples. During his conflict with Kratos, Theseus may also call them forth. Massive Minotaurs, known as Titan Minotaurs, are constructed completely of lava and volcanic rock. They first only appear as a mound of boulders, but when Kratos approaches, they awaken. Kratos comes upon a stronger species of Minotaur called Minotaur Elites while on his hunt. The Minotaur Elites resemble the typical Minotaurs Kratos has faced, with the exception that they're now well armored and carry a lethal battle axe. The strongest variety of Minotaur Kratos faces in combat is the Labris Minotaur. They resemble the Minotaur Elites in appearance, but they have tougher armor and a bigger axe. Minotaur Brute. Kratos came across 2 different kinds of Minotaurs, both known as the Minotaur Brute. They take the form of enormous Minotaurs in God of War, Ghost of Sparta, each carrying a spiked warhammer. They assault Kratos by either charging at him, goring him with their horns, tossing him into the nearby wall, or striking him with their hammer. The first kind of Minotaur to appear in God of War 3 is the Minotaur Brute. They assault Kratos by charging at him in an effort to gore him with their horns, which the Golden Fleece can deflect. Unlike the other Minotaurs, they do not employ weapons. Hades Minotaur. Kratos came upon 2 different kinds of Minotaur known as the Hades Minotaur. These fiery creatures are guards of Hades and the underworld, and Kratos comes across them in the depths of the underworld. They appear to resemble the Minotaur tormentors but are engulfed in flames. A new variety of Hades Minotaurs can be found in God of War 2. They are squat, fatty Minotaurs that breathe fire and wield enormous fiery swords. Hades Minotaur can harm Kratos with his weapon, break the earth and set it ablaze, charge at him and strike him with his shoulder, or wound him with his horns.
Fate has brought me here.
Olympus Sentry. The gods of Olympus' primary soldiers in their epic conflict with the Titans are known as the Olympus Sentries. These enemies are under Zeus's power, and he unleashes unending waves of them on Kratos. They had the appearance of a skeleton, emaciated beings dressed in tarnished armor and carrying common swords. Olympus Sentries aren't the most powerful enemies Kratos faces, but they more than make up for it by attacking him in a very high number. Even when split in half, they can still battle, scuttling over the ground to slash at their adversaries. A step higher from the Olympus sentries, the Olympus Legionnaires fight Kratos as a part of Olympus's seemingly limitless army. They resemble Olympus sentries in appearance, but with stronger golden armor and an axe as their preferred weapon. Olympus Guardian. The Olympus gods have devoted servants called Olympus Guardians. They resemble typical skeletal soldiers wearing plain armor. They are armed with ordinary spears and wield a massive Zeus-emblazoned solid onyx hexagonal shield that is very large vertically. They frequently show up in huge groups and will phalanx attack Kratos with their spears and shields. Although the Olympus Guardians are very frail, Kratos cannot damage them until he's broken their onyx barriers. In essence, Olympus Sentinels are Olympus Guardians with increased strength. With their onyx shields and spears, they resemble the Olympus Guardians in appearance and attack style. The sole distinction is that they are stronger overall.
So eager, Kratos. Relax. Soon enough, we will have our time.
Olympus Fiend. The Olympus god servants are known as Olympus Fiends. They resemble the skeleton remnants of former female soldiers and are partially armored with plumed headgear on top. They can either stand back and use explosive projectiles to assault Kratos from a distance or attack him directly with the sword they're carrying. Olympus Archer. They resemble Olympus sentries in appearance, however, their females have less protection and use a bow instead of a sword. They take up positions at a distance and fire flaming arrows toward Kratos. Kratos may destroy these enemies by dodging their ranged attacks and then launching a barrage of punches once he's in close proximity. Kratos may also engage them at a distance by deflecting their arrows with the Golden Fleece or by firing fiery arrows from the bow of Apollo. Megaera's minion. Megaera produces parasites from a rash on her breast that has a sickly appearance. Any living thing may be seized and controlled by the bug beings, which latch onto and tunnel beneath their skin. One of the parasites attacks a man in a jail cell. It leaps onto his neck, burrows beneath his skin, and drives 2 spikes into his spine. The victim then almost immediately starts to mutate. His screams change into snarls, roars, chatters, and shrieks as he develops insect-like characteristics such as heightened strength, armor, and astonishing acrobatic abilities. Kratos is attacked when the monster leaps through a wooden door. Morpheus Beast. The Morpheus Beast is a massive grey smilodon with a human-like face, partially shrouded in a thick fog. The Morpheus Beast frequently makes an appearance by rising from the murky Morpheus fog. It strikes Kratos with its claws, pounces on him, or exhales ominous flames in his direction. By securing his blades to the Morpheus Beast, Kratos may kill it by climbing up onto its back, impaling it in the chest, and then slicing it apart. Tritons. While in Atlantis, Kratos came upon Tritons, who were water creatures. Poseidon and Amphitrite's offspring made up the first generation of Tritons. In order to stop Kratos and save Atlantis, Poseidon dispatched them. There were 3 different sorts, all of whom had blue flashing eyes and weapons: assassins, soldiers, and lords. Triton soldiers typically show up in big numbers as the initial adversary in the game. They resemble strong elderly men with long white beards that usually appears like that of Poseidon. They are armed solely with tridents and only wear worn-out shorts, further emphasizing their resemblance to the deity. The Triton army's ranged units are known as Triton assassins. They have the appearance of bald guys and are equipped with magic blades. They only have loincloths and golden armor on their left arms. Both before and after Kratos sinks it, they may be located through Atlantis. The Triton army's top troops are known as Triton Lords. They resemble Triton soldiers in appearance, but they're much bigger, with tattoos, loincloths, tribal hairstyles, and a massive lethal spear as a weapon.
That's a fair few birds you've hunted.
Raven. Kratos comes across flocks of ravens, the winged aides of Thanatos and Erinis. They typically emerge in groups and assault Kratos by swooping down on him rapidly and unleashing short, feeble blows. By capturing them, tossing them to the ground, and then crushing them with his foot, Kratos can easily defeat these avian foes. Pegasus. In God of War 2, Kratos rode a grey Pegasus with blazing wings to the island of creation. Gaia sent Pegasus to accompany Kratos on his trek to the Sisters of Fate to help stop the Titan's demise many years before after healing Kratos so that he might take his retribution on Zeus. The Pegasus was thrown to Earth during the combat as the Dark Rider used his griffin to grab the winged horse. Kratos hurriedly climbed aboard the Dark Griffin, leaving Pegasus's final fate in doubt. Beast Lords were hostile monsters that Kratos faced at the Palace of the Fates entrance in the Bog of the Forgotten. They are shown as diminutive creatures, armored with horned helmets and armed with 2 combat axes. They are occasionally depicted with horns and are regarded as a reconnaissance minion or scout. When confronted, a Beast Lord can summon a Cyclops berserker using its horn. The creature will then mount and be under its control from the giant's shoulders. Cyclops may make far more lethal and potent strikes while mounted. Fates, Sentry. The usual defenders of the Sisters of Fate appear to be Fates, Sentry. They have the back legs of a goat and, from the waist up, resemble a weakly armored, rotting human with a Greek hoplites helmet on their heads. They carry enormous swords on their backs and blades strapped to their arms for defense. One of the more powerful servants of the Sisters of Fate is the Fates Guardians. They are more challenging to defeat since they wear crimson armor, wield war axes, and are better armed. Infant Basilisk. The offspring of the Basilisk is known as Infant Basilisks. However, they were never included in the finished edition of God of War Chains of Olympus. The unlockable film, The Lost Stages, shows some of the game's cut levels where they did nevertheless make an appearance. The 2 assault Kratos in the video, with one maintaining his gaze while the other pounces on him from behind, sending both of them tumbling off a nearby cliff. The membranes between these baby basilisks' limbs allow them to glide.
And there is only one thing left.
Diamond. The diamond always supports Tisiphone in combat and seems to be her pet. It never leaves her and helps her when she's dazed. It has wings like bats and a head, and it appears to be a bluebird or harpy-like creature. The beast is also regarded as Tisiphone's offspring. The monster could fly thanks to its wings, and it was powerful enough to carry Tisiphone. The beast is partially related to Tisiphone's ability to create illusions and appears to be constructed of solid fury energy, much like the illusions Tisiphone used to defeat Kratos. It seems to be a concentrated area of delusion that powerful flashes can only destroy from the eyes of truth. Piraeus, lion. The enormous lion-like beast is even adorned with arrows that were most likely left behind from a previous conflict with the Spartans. It roars sometimes and scratches Kratos with its powerful claws. Kratos is startled by the roar's extreme volume, covering his ears and causing his eyesight to become blurry. If he's unable to recover quickly, he becomes an easy target. The lion routinely avoids Kratos' assaults by jumping away from them, and he typically follows it up with a counterattack. When Kratos is finally pinned to the ground by one of its paws, it might spring on him and continue to bite him until the warrior manages to escape. If he does, he'll kick the lion in the face, causing it to turn around. The majority of lion strikes are unblockable, therefore, dodging it is typically the best course of action.
The gods have intervened.
Polyphemus. The original Cyclops in Homer's Odyssey was named Polyphemus. As the enormous one-eyed Titan son of Poseidon, Polyphemus is shown. In a conflict between Sparta and Troy, he served as the boss of the multi-level map Desert of Lost Souls. Although Polyphemus is imprisoned in the desert, he may still assault players who approach him by knocking them to the ground or slamming them with his enormous fists. The Spear of Olympus, a weapon endowed with heavenly abilities, falls from the sky during a crucial moment of battle. A warrior can poke Polyphemus in the eye with the spear if he can get it out of the dirt. The blow knocks the Cyclops out cold, causing his head to tumble to the ground. To slay Polyphemus, the player who had obtained the spear had to go close to it and grab it. Phoenix. To ascend the Ashen Spire and go to the Temple of the Fates, Kratos must use the Phoenix. Kratos learns from Lachesis at the Palace of the Fates that in order to awaken and free the beast, he must enter the Phoenix Chamber's depths and utilize the Phoenix's ashes. Kratos is able to dip the ashes into the fire and revive the beast by working out the chamber's challenges. Kratos frees the bird from the flames with the Hail of Boreas and then pursues it. Kratos captures the Phoenix and uses it to fly up to the Temple of the Fates after defeating the Kraken. Due to its propensity to repeatedly revive itself, the beast is assumed to be still alive after Kratos leapt off it and entered the temple. Dead Rider. Hades sends the undead horses right. Their horses had seafoam, green eyes, and a scaly underbelly, and the foes resembled skeletons with pitchforks in hand and black hooded cloaks. They were initially observed in a city in Greece that Kratos had besieged. These zombies assailed the god of battle, but they and their spectral horses were swiftly put to death. Kratos pierced the rider in the skull and severed the front legs of their horses to put an end to them.
Okay, you're right.
Gulveed. Gullveig is a character from Norse mythology in which the Aesir speared, burned 3 times, and then reincarnated 3 times. A lake spirit urges Kratos and Atreus to look for the last 3 bones of his lover Gullveig when they come across him. In exchange, he implies that Gullveig might be able to help them establish a link between the living and the dead. Atreus was given the impression that he may finally get to meet and speak with his mother. Gullveig is resurrected after Kratos and Atreus bring the bones back. She does, however, come back as a revenant and starts to assault the two. Kratos brings her back to her grave. Hellwalkers. Hellwalkers are a type of humanoid enemy that is resistant to ice and has a blue and white color. They are virtually all immune to the Leviathan Axe's blows and must be defeated with either fists or the Blades of Chaos. If they're stunned, Kratos can draw them in for a punch to the gut before grabbing one of their legs to knock them over and stomping on their skulls with his foot to give them the freeze condition. Wolf. Massive canines that come in the form of huge reddish-brown or grey wolves are known as wolves. They frequently come with other adversaries in packs of 2 or 3. They charge at Kratos and bite him or spring on him from behind, holding him down and causing constant harm. Kratos can knock out the beast and fling it at foes if they're stunned. Pandora's Guardian. In God of War, players came across Pandora's Guardian, a 20-foot-tall undead minotaur with virtually unbreakable armor. It guarded the grave of the architect's son, which was situated in the section of Pandora's temple devoted to Hades. The inclusion of a device resembling a cannon in the Guardian's chamber suggested that it was intended to pose as the last challenge for anybody who had made it that far through the temple in an effort to get Pandora's box. Due to his armor, the Minotaur could only be damaged by extremely high quantities of damage. Kratos killed it by impaling it to a door after he removed its torso, armor, and helmet and shot the ballista at it. Kratos found Pandora's Guardian quite challenging because it varied its fighting tactics during the conflict. The power of Pandora's Guardian was mostly owing to its immense size. It was capable of grabbing Kratos and slamming him to the ground while mostly using smashing and swiping strikes with its enormous gauntlets. The Minotaur, Hades' servant and born in the underworld depths, submerged Kratos in a wave of molten lava. In addition, Pandora's Guardian possessed a powerful charge strike in which he drove his body into the ledge Kratos was standing on, igniting lava below and dousing the Spartan in volcanic rain. Tatzelworm. Tatzelworms are a type of feline enemy that resembles a snake. They frequently appear in groups of 2 or more with other foes. They either bite Kratos or burrow and throw themselves at him. If the monsters are dazed, Kratos can kill them by tearing out their hearts or by forcibly pushing them into the ground by their tails. The Tatzelworm is a serpent-like monster from Alpine legend that has either 2 forelegs or 4 short legs, and is sometimes depicted as having a cat-like face. Sometimes the claimed monster is described as being venomous, attacking with the toxic breath and hissing or speaking in a loud voice. Undead Archer. The God of War series has foes called Undead Archers. They are viewed as ordinary soldiers in Ares' army of the dead. Although they are a frequent and often simple enemy to overcome, they may become rather formidable adversaries to fight when found in large numbers on harder levels. They can strike Kratos with their bows up close. They frequently coexist alongside undead legionnaires and assume defensive positions next to them. The Cursed Archer, a more potent variation of these archers, and the Hades Archer, a fiery underworld variation, are also available. They get better weapons and armor with each category. Hades Legionnaire. The Legionnaire captain's counterpart in the underworld is the Hades Legionnaire. It looks identical, but it's engulfed in ferocious flames. It fights the same way and with equal strength. Kratos has the ability to harm it and kill it in the same manner that he harms and kills a Legionnaire captain. Magic Legionnaire. Another form of zombie soldier is the Magic Legionnaire. They resemble the Cursed Legionnaire, but also have a large magic shield that Kratos must first break with his blades of chaos before he can harm or kill them with a powerful assault like the Plume of Prometheus or Valor of Hercules. He may capture them at any time after breaking their shield and kill them the same way he kills undead legionnaires. Kratos fights them at several locations across Athens, as well as in Pandora's temple. Hades Fiend. One of the many foes Kratos faced on his journey to the Sisters was the fiery undead corpse of what seems to be a female warrior known as the Hades Fiend. They appear to him for the first time at the ruins of the Forgotten before appearing elsewhere on the island of creation. They wield a sword in their right hand, are decked out in bronze female combat gear, and can generate fireballs with their left hand, which they may launch at Kratos from a distance. They can be hurt by being grabbed by Kratos, having one of his blades pierce their backs, and then being thrown to the ground as they bounce. Fate's Juggernaut. The Fate's Juggernaut is one of the Sisters of Fate's most potent minions and a formidable opponent. It holds a huge flail and is covered in heavy golden armor. Additionally, it travels quickly for its size and engages in a flail assault on Kratos. Kratos must first remove some of the monster's armor before he can finish it off. Fire Guard. The Fire Guard may be seen in the caves of Olympus as well as the hallways and corridors of the Temple of Helios. They take the form of men covered in flames, clad in ornate bronze armor and bearing two blazing swords. They hurry up to Kratos and strike him, or they lunge at him with both swords and deliver devastating blows. The Fire Sentry is the Fire Guard's ranged counterpart. They resemble Fire Guards in terms of appearance, with the exception that they don't carry two blazing swords, and instead have a massive bronze gauntlet on their right hand that they may use to call out fireballs. Feral Hound. Feral hounds have the appearance of little brown hounds and resemble the young Cerberus of Hades. They frequently show up in big quantities and alongside other adversaries. They either spring upon Kratos from behind, holding him down and doing constant damage, or they charge at him and bite him. If a feral hound jumps on Kratos, the user must shake the joystick quickly so that the Spartan may knock it back off. Rabid Hound. Kratos is attacked by swarms of rabid hounds that rush at him and bite him with their teeth. Kratos may hurt them by seizing them and then kicking them. This will also harm any other foes the hound strikes as it flies by. Kratos may kill them by climbing on top of them and snapping their neck once he's dealt enough damage. Scylla Brood. Small, spider-like monsters known as Scylla Brood travel with the enormous sea monster Scylla. Despite their fragility, they assault Kratos in large numbers. Scylla Brood can attack Kratos by just springing onto him and biting him, or by leaping onto him and biting him repeatedly until he manages to break free by seizing them and ripping them in half like their terrible death. Kratos can parry both assaults. Shade. The typical zombie soldiers in Morpheus's army are called Shades. They frequently appear by emerging from Morpheus's black fog. As he travels around Marathon and the area surrounding the Temple of Helios, Kratos comes across a lot of them. They take the form of armored specters that are armed with two luminous swords.
With the release of the Fire Steeds, Kratos was now in the hands of the beasts.
Zephyros. Zephyros, the Olympian god of the West Wind, is an immortal entity that resembles a horse. He is one of the three horses known as the Fire Steeds that pull the sun chariot of Helios along its route. After Helios vanished, Kratos awoke Zephyros, allowing Morpheus to seize control of the regions. The horse gods led the chariot of Helios directly into the underworld, where the sun god himself was being held when Kratos awoke him and his brothers. Geryon. Kratos encounters giant creatures called Geryons along the way, which Poseidon uses to protect Atlantis. They possessed several bodily parts, including two sets of arms and huge metal orbs that fire lightning. Geryons are ominous-looking giant beasts that are undoubtedly the game's deadliest foes. They can teleport directly to Kratos and deliver a rapid punch with their electrical ball, which is incredibly difficult to avoid. They have potent close-range lightning attacks. However, Kratos may use the lightning orbs to break their skulls towards the end of clashes with Geryons. There are 3 occurrences of Geryons, twice in the Nexus of Atlantis and once in the Temple of Athena. Kratos fights 3 of them simultaneously in the 3rd battle. Midgard Beast. The body of a Nordic beast known as the Midgard Beast is left inside the mountain. Kratos and Atreus reach the inside of the mountain with their ultimate objective already determined at the top. There, they must battle a variety of enemies, work puzzles to find their way, and face the powerful dragon Hreslir. The creature's carcass, which has been coated in cobwebs over time, is located in one of these chambers. A bizarre animal with enormous fangs that was formerly employed to lift heavy objects.
My goodness, what a strapping physique. Capable of an astounding variety of acts of violence, I imagine.
What is happening?
This must be the squirrel that tends the world tree.
Ratatosca. One of the runic creatures that Atreus may call to offer Kratos stones is Ratatosca. Ratatosca is a caustic, obnoxious and nasty creature who constantly takes the chance to taunt the party members whenever he is called, befitting his alias as the Bitter Squirrel. This squirrel, who can converse unlike other summons, is not happy about being employed as a messenger. Despite this, he never attempts to take advantage of Kratos and Atreus, and always seems to grant the stones that Atreus requests, even when he is constantly called upon.
I got it. Elbow up, steady hand, relax. Accuracy over speed. Yes!
Hildisvini. Freya's buddy and a boar named Hildisvini went on several voyages with her. When Atreus encounters the boar while attempting to hunt it and pursues it, Freya, who is guarding it, emerges and tries to treat Atreus' wounds and shoots. When the boar is healed, Kratos and Atreus agree to accompany her back to her house. When Atreus inquires about it following healing, Freya recalls its name and reveals that the boar is her close friend. Huldra creature. On their trip to Midgard's highest mountain, Kratos and Atreus encounter the dwarf blacksmith Brock, who is having issues with a creature carrying his forge. The staff caravan of Brock is the bipedal, camel-like Huldra creature. The Huldra creature senses the presence of other terrifying creatures and is reluctant to move over the bridge. Atreus, who has the power to hear the thoughts of animals, recognizes the animal's dread and instructs his father to swing the axe at the far-off trees. This method frightens the animals and encourages the Huldra creature to keep moving. Brock graciously provides his skills to upgrade and market weapons. Wild boar. The boars that wander the island of creation are known as wild boars. They approach Kratos and lash out at him with their enormous tusks. They may take up the boar, bite off its head, and throw it towards Kratos like a missile if there are any Cyclops around. By catching the wild boar by the leg, holding it aloft, and slashing open its guts, Kratos may bring it to death. This method of killing them also produces gold orbs. They move far more slowly than the Cyclops. Argos. Because Kratos, the new god of war, and his Spartan army intended to upset Greece's delicate equilibrium, the god sent Argos to stop them. Kratos repeatedly enraged him in combat, but Argos always managed to flee. Later, during their last battle, Argos was knocked unconscious and killed in a sewer by an unidentified killer, allowing Kratos to claim responsibility for the creature's death and the assault on the city. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share, and for more exciting videos, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks, everyone.